Inspectors Cantos,
Here.
Inspector Doris,
Here.
Inspector Ulmer,
Here.
Inspector Roberts,
Here.
Inspector Pritz,
Here.
Inspector Zeke,
Here. We'll do the pledge to the flag and the peace pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right.
I am a peace builder. I pledge to praise people, to give up put downs. I will build peace at home, at school, and in my community every day.
Thank you. Due to the state declared COVID-19 emergency and the required social distancing, this board meeting shall be conducted virtually with no persons present at the district offices, noting that it is unfeasible to have anyone present at the district offices for the meeting. If we can have a board make a motion and read the motion, please.
I move that the board declares the COVID-19 emergency to be a bona fide emergency and authorize the board meeting to proceed by audio and or video conference. That's my motion.
Get a second?
This is Jeff, a second.
Okay. Stephanie, can you do the roll?
yes. Inspector Cantos,
Aye.
Inspector Pritz,
Aye.
Inspector Doris,
Aye.
Inspector Zeke,
Aye.
Inspector Ulmer,
Aye.
Inspector Roberts,
Aye. Motion carries. Let's see, Dr. Rask?
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're going to begin with a review of a visit to one of our schools virtually. Tonight, we have Dr. Melissa Mendoza Thompson here from Mary Crest Early Childhood Center. So Melissa, if you could unmute yourself and show your video.
Thank you so much for allowing me to engage in this presentation with you. I'm really excited to show off Mary Crest and who we are, what we do, and why we do what we do. Mary Crest is a unique place in the district. We are the only early childhood center to service all of the district preschoolers who are aged 3 to 5 years old. So a little bit about Mary Crest. As I said, we have the 3 to 5 year olds. Our students, we have a capacity of 620 students. Right now, we're right around 460 students. We have about just under half of our students have IEPs currently, but by the time we finish the school year, I would anticipate that 50% of our students would have IEPs, and approximately 50% of our students are also not native English speakers. So as I said, we really are a unique place. We celebrate the diversity of our community in everything that we do. If you take a look at some of our demographics, you'll see that our diversity is very much reflected in our students and also reflected in the curriculum that we utilize, the materials that we use in every aspect of our school day. At Mary Crest, 100% of the students are considered to be at risk for future academic challenges according to the eligibility guidelines. Our students come to us in 2 different ways. The first way is through the special education process. So approximately, as I said, 50% of our students come in through early intervention, which is the special ed services for the birth to 3 age range. Those students are evaluated by something called the Preschool Assessment Team or PAT team. The other half of our students come in through the dial screenings. And during those screenings, every parent is interviewed to see what types of risk factors and challenges they may have in their families and in their homes. And then the child is screened to see where they're at developmentally and to ensure that students are meeting developmental milestones. These are a variety of different risk factors. So the first three that you see are what we call automatic eligibility. They're extremely high risk factors. So our students who are meeting criteria for homelessness through the McKinney-Vento bill, which provides supports for homeless families, will automatically be entered into the program. Of course, they're still interviewed and they're still evaluated to make sure they're developmentally on target, but they are automatically accepted, as are children who are in the foster care system, and then children who either are not meeting their developmental milestones according to screenings or through the special education process. Other students are eligible based on a combination of risk factors and developmental factors. Some of these risk factors could be stressors to the family. We've seen a significant increase in children who are eligible based on issues related to COVID-19, such as recent transientness, families that are losing their jobs, illness in the family from COVID, certain health concerns. We have children who have cancer. We have children who have survived cancer. We have parents with, say, fibromyalgia, things like that. And then also financial strains. Nearly all of our families do qualify for some type of public aid, such as WIC, LINK, SNAP, TANF, for example. So our families come in a variety of different ways. I always try to remind teachers that all of our students are eligible at Marycrest for a reason. We're all working on something, and it's our goal as educators to be able to meet children and families where they're at and provide those supports to the families and the children to help ensure that equity is the priority for us. We feel that, you know, Marycrest is a place where equity is, you know, it gives us the opportunity to empower and educate children who wouldn't normally have access to an education in preschool. There's a misconception when you hear Preschool for All, which is the name of the grant that provides the majority of our funding, that everybody is eligible to come to Marycrest. And parents will often say, well, why didn't my child get accepted to Marycrest? It says Preschool for All. But when they say for all, they're really meaning those children that wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to access an early childhood education. We're also supported by the IDEA grant, as well as different district funds. I'm sure you know from our previous meeting that Marycrest is also a 3-time Gold Circle of Excellent rated school. We're very, very proud of that. That is the highest rated level of preschool in the state of Illinois. So we have an excellent staff and excellent teachers at Marycrest. So during a normal year, our 3 to 5-year-olds can either come to school in the morning or in the afternoon. Each classroom has 20 students in it, so each teacher services 40 students a day. Approximately 50% of those students do have IEPs for speech only or other types of disabilities. The classroom runs for 2.5 hours, like I said, in the morning, and then 2.5 hours in the afternoon. So I always joke that we do everything twice at Marycrest, so we're really getting it right when we do it twice. Every classroom has 3 adults. It's typically a classroom general education teacher, a parapro, and then a member of the special education team in the classroom. We do use a play-based curriculum. So, you know, I want to stress that although we play in preschool, we're also learning while we're playing, and it takes great skill to teach children and sneak in that education while they're playing. So now that we are in a remote environment, it's a little bit different. So some of the curriculums that we use teaching strategies, and there are 38 objectives that align to the Illinois Early Learning Standards. But as you see, we have a lot of other supplemental curriculums that we're utilizing to help students meet their needs. We do have an extremely strong focus on social emotional. Our priority is for students to fall in love with school. When students fall in love with school and have trusting relationships with the school and with their teachers, everything else is going to fall into place academically. So that's our number one priority, is to encourage our children to really love coming to school and love learning, and to learn the process and the rules that correlate with coming to school. Some things that are new with remote learning is we're using the Teaching Strategies Cloud. We're also really trying to engage our families and our parents in different activities that remind parents and reinforce the concept that parents are actually their children's first teachers. So you could see a variety of different resources that we've introduced this year. A lot of them do focus on parent education as well as literacy. So how does this translate to the remote environment? We do a combination of synchronous or live instruction and then asynchronous family-based home learning activities. But every week students have social emotional groups. We're offering parent education, parent support groups. We do family book club every month. We have parent education about every other month. And then our bilingual department is doing something called PEP, or Parents as Educational Partners. And then additional services are offered through the IEP. So we have learned more than ever this year that parents are our partners in learning, and they're more important than ever. We've really started to rely on our parents to support their children's learning, especially in our live Zoom sessions. The parents are with their children, engaging their children, helping keep their children on task. During our home activities, we're asking for feedback from our families. We're asking for pictures and videos so that teachers can assess and evaluate where the children are developmentally, and having those conversations with families about, what are you seeing at home and what are we seeing on Zoom? So I have a quick video that I've asked, the teachers and I have asked parents to submit pictures of their children, and I wanted to share that with you.
Sí, un rectángulo. Triángulo.
No, sí.
Sí. Cuadrado.
¿Aló?
Sí. Ahora los huevos. ¿Y qué estás haciendo? Échalos. And then, how did it end?
Mama, duck said quack, quack, quack.
as I said, those were all pictures and videos that were submitted by parents to show us what their children are doing in school. And when I asked parents, what do you like about Marycrest? Nearly every parent commented on how much they loved their child's teacher and how valuable their teaching was. And this is just a few of the comments, this slide and the next slide, that parents shared with us. And if you ever want to talk more about Marycrest, I would love to do that because 10 minutes just isn't enough time. So what questions do you have for me?
First, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. Could you take a moment to talk about what Handwriting Without Tears is? What kind of program that is?
Sure. Handwriting Without Tears is a fine motor program. It works on a variety of different things. It starts with someone called Matman. And Matman is working on basic shapes because before you can write your letters, you have to understand there's a certain continuum of skills that starts with scribbling to drawing lines that are vertical lines, horizontal lines, making the X. So Matman introduces the different shapes and basic concepts of above, below, and then those concepts are translated into the handwriting component, which we actually start using Foundations handwriting at that point. But handwriting is developmentally appropriately, mainly for our pre-K into kindergarten age students. So for Handwriting Without Tears, we focus on Matman, and he's a good friend of ours.
And how are your parents able to access their teachers? And if they have any questions for you, how are they able to do that?
Yeah, so the teachers, like I said, they do live sessions for 45 minutes twice a day. At the end of every live we do a parent Q&A where the teacher reviews what the home learning activities are going to be for that evening. And then the parents have an opportunity to discuss that with the teachers. I do have parents, we're in the office every day, so parents do call the office. Additionally, teachers are using the Teaching Strategies Cloud, which allows the function of parents being able to upload pictures and videos using their phones or the tablets that the school provides. And then they also have Remind, as does the rest of the district. So we have a variety of different communication tools that we're using with our families.
Could I ask you statistically, how many of your students are foster children and how many of them are homeless at this time?
I would say we have approximately 20 homeless students and probably slightly less foster children. We do work closely with the State Board of Ed and Erica Rock, our homeless liaison. So when, if Erica has a student who has younger siblings, she's frequently referring them to me, and I'll get an email that says, hey, can you give this one a call and get them in for a screening? And we'll fast track that process to get them in ASAP.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah, Melissa, I don't have any questions, but I just want to say thank you. It's an amazing job that's going on out over there at Marycrest, and I really like to focus on the three-way learning. So having that open communication with the parents, especially in this current situation where there's lots of challenges, extra challenges that you have to overcome, right? So that communication is so key. So sounds like a lot of great work going on there by you and your entire staff. So thank you so very, very much.
Well, we love what we do, and we really have focused on being flexible and meeting families where they're at. And I keep stressing to families, we just want you to engage, and we want to have that relationship with you. And we're willing to accept whatever you can give us at this time, because we know there's a lot going on in the lives of our families.
Melissa, a good start to anything is very important. So thanks for giving them a good start.
Thank you. We take our job seriously.
I can tell.
Thank you again for your presentation. Kind of disappointing that we didn't get to see the babies sing the Christmas songs at this time of year. That would have been nice. Right? Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great job, Melissa, you're doing over there leading the team and again, helping our babies get off to a good start. So it's impressive, especially in remote land, what's all being accomplished.
Yes, the teachers are doing an amazing job. They really are.
Yes, they are. Okay,
Okay, well, thank you.
thank you. Okay. Next, we have a presentation. Dr. Sunny McNeil, our Assistant Superintendent of Equity and Student Services, is here with her staff. And they have a presentation to help us with what is special education looking like in our virtual land. So Dr. McNeil, I'll let you take it from there.
In a traditional setting, planning and delivering services to students with disabilities is intentional, strategic, and most times complex. When I first learned that the 2021 school year would be starting remote, my wonder was, how can we replicate services virtually that will meet the diverse learning needs of our students? After all, pandemic or not, the show must go on. My panic subsided when I remembered the team of dedicated educators that always work tirelessly to get our students what they need. Up for the challenge, the teams jumped in and began creating individual remote learning plans to identify how services would be delivered virtually for all 1,579 students with an IEP. Teams worked with parents and guardians during the planning process. A variety of platforms, tools, and strategies are utilized to meet student needs. Please enjoy the next few slides as teachers reflect on teaching and learning in trimester 1.
Hi, my name is Sarah Byrne. I am a life skills teacher at Hufford. And when I first heard that the district was going virtual, I imagined it was going to be something like this, where I would be teaching to empty screens, to kids not sitting there, that it just was not possible to reach low functioning special education students in that setting at all. I remember crying, just thinking, how can I possibly, this will never work. And since then, while it is a lot of work and it's definitely challenging, and as I'm taking a break from literally laminating and making materials for our December supply pickup tomorrow, I realized that I had a lot more help than I was thinking. I have a fantastic, fabulous team of women that I work with who work together to collaborate and create resources. We've created different lessons every day of the week. We do a cooking, an art, a field trip, a science experiment, and a social emotional lesson at one every day. I collaborate, I'm working really closely with the OT because I created a specific fine motor time where we're hands off of the computer and doing something, stringing beads or cutting or doing something that isn't necessarily using the computer. And I've had way more success than I could have anticipated. I have a student who moved from Ecuador little over a year ago who now can have a conversation in English. She can, hi, she can, how are you? She can answer questions in English. She can follow directions in English. And today I had 2 students completely independently complete independent work. So it's definitely difficult, but teachers, we are the greatest showman. I'm clearly Hugh Jackson, you can tell. And show must go on. And here it goes.
Hi, my name is Michelle Lynn. I'm from Hufford. I'm a teacher in the ABC program. Most of my students have autism, also a variety of other disabilities. So when I learned that the 2020-2021 school year would start remotely, I panicked. I did not see a way that I could reach my diverse learners through the computer, didn't think it was possible. But then I realized the show must go on. You need to calm down, get yourself together, and be the best you can be for your students. So, like many things in the world of special ed, remote teaching has been a team effort. My team at Hufford has been amazing. We share all of our resources. We make pre-recorded videos for the entire program weekly, and we support each other all the time. And then my para-pros, Miss Reese and Miss Steele, I could not do it without them. They run my small groups. They offer suggestions when I need them, and they completely hold me together. They're my superheroes. So when I step back and look at remote learning as a whole, I am really quite astonished. Has it been ideal? No. Would I rather be in the classroom? Of course I would be, but my students and their families have gone on this adventure with me willingly and happily, and my students are making progress. Yes, academic progress, but most importantly, in my opinion, they have made progress and grown as people. They typically are hesitant and they don't love change, and they have taken this change on with perseverance and with grace. They've shown flexibility, they've shown a sense of humor, they've shown compassion. All of these things are not typically things that people with autism are super great at. They're not really comfortable doing it. And so yes, while they are learning from me academically, I have learned so much from them about how to deal with change and how to just be a better human. I'm so proud of them, and I'm just happy to be their teacher.
John, can you hit the button again, please?
Hi, my name is Maureen, and I'm an occupational therapist at Huffer Junior High, Thigpen Elementary, and Marycrest Early Childhood Centers. When I first found out that we were going to be starting the school year remotely and I would have to be providing OT services virtually, my first wonder was how I would be able to provide that same hands-on treatment that I provide in person, that I would be providing virtually over the computer, how that would work. So obviously I was a little worried and concerned about that, but of course I realized the show must go on and we need to continue providing these services for our students. So the way that I've been replicating my OT services in the remote setting has been through live virtual sessions on Zoom with the student and their parent present to help out. So I usually start with the basis of the treatment is an activity similar to something that I might do if I was with them in person, and then I just adapt it as needed so that it works over a virtual setting. And then, for example, having the parent have whatever materials that they have on hand. So doing a lot of adaptation to just work with whatever they have around, as opposed to more of the materials that we might have if we were in person.
Hi, I'm Becky Nahas, and I teach our students that are blind and visually impaired. When I learned that the 2021 school year would be remote, I wondered, how will I provide the Braille instruction that my students need, along with teaching them their adapted technology skills? I thought about it and I realized the show must go on. I expressed my concerns to the district, and as always, they heard me. They listened to the families that I serve, and they decided to allow me to give direct instruction. Things were going great, and then on Veterans Day, I learned that we needed to freeze in-person instruction. This time I was confident. I had watched my students troubleshoot with each other any technology issues they had. I watched them log into their classes and use chat messaging with any teacher if they needed things adapted or modified. I watched them grow. I watched them use their life skills, which is the silver lining of this whole situation. I can't wait to see them in person again, but I do know that they're successful. They're making this happen. And as like I said, the show is going on. Have a good night.
Hi, my name is Lauren Hardaway. I'm a school psychologist at Marycrest Early Childhood Center. When I learned that the 2021 school year will begin remote, one of my wonders was, how would we do our play-based assessments since we have to bring the families into the building and they're such an integral part of our evaluations? But I realized that the show must go on. So we have started virtual PAC clinic evaluations with the families and the students. Of course, our kids are usually 2 years old, so they don't necessarily want to sit in front of the screen. So it's been a lot of us talking with the families and watching the kids play in their home environment. And it's actually been really great because the kids are comfortable we can see better skills and just watch them kind of move about in areas that they're familiar with versus when we bring them in for an evaluation. So that's actually been a positive to the remote setting. One success story is that a couple of weeks ago, we evaluated a little boy, and him and his mom had so much fun on the virtual assessment with us. She showed us around the house, different things that he likes to do, and he has fun interacting with the screen and answering some of the questions. So that was great, and we are finding success with our remote evaluations and just doing the best we can in the environment that we're in right now.
Hi, my name is Bridget Rohr, and I'm a speech language pathologist at Lynn Thigpen Elementary. I work with students in the LIFE program, instructional program, and general education program. When I learned that the district would be starting remote this year, I wondered how would we get all our students' minutes met. However, I quickly learned that it is what it is and the show must go on. So I worked to learn how to use Presence Learning Platform. I took the Google Level 1 and 2 program. I've also learned to collaborate with my teachers using Zoom. By using these tools, I have been able to service my students remotely. I am doing my best to meet their needs. I'm also learning more about them and their families every day. My students' success story is, I have this one student who is nonverbal and presents with a lot of behaviors during this normal school year. By using Presence Learning and his designated communication device, he is now speaking in one word verbally, but also 3 to 4 words on his device. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Sarah Formelli, longtime school counselor at Isaac Singleton Elementary School. When I first learned we would be starting the school year remotely, I imagined how strange it would be at school with no students there. No buses, empty halls, a quiet cafeteria. I thought about not being able to welcome all the kids to school in the morning. And the thought of missing all the connections I've made with so many of them over the years. But the show must go on, and trainings for new ways of teaching prepared us for the adventure ahead. I learned, along with all of our great teachers, the challenges we faced and overcame as remote learning moved along. As days turn into weeks and weeks turn into months, we all learned about ourselves, how to connect with others, and how to overcome challenges. In these challenges, while working with others, I found success was possible. Success was found in supporting teachers and students, whether it be popping into a Zoom room to help, teaching a group lesson, or being a text message away for support at any time. We found that building relationships was possible. Talking and learning about each other, sharing thoughts, ideas, and life with one another can create connections in remote learning. Success was not found, but created by amazing, flexible teachers and staff who learned that you can't control everything, but you can make the most of your time by keeping things moving, letting go, and sometimes hitting the mute button. Thank you to all who have made this adventure possible.
Have to hit play. It seems like we were having some technology issues, but I hope you were able to see that the Department of Equity and Student Services has adopted the phrase, the show must go on, as we ride this wave of uncertainty. We just wanted to show you some of the hard work of our staff and their creativity in trying to make sure that they reach all of our students. So I hope you enjoyed what you were able to see. Any questions?
Very informative. It's a high wire act, right?
Exactly.
But everybody walks the wire. Nice job. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic presentation. And while I'm sure as we've gone through this, what, 8 or 9 months now, some of those challenges have seemed probably insurmountable. I mean, days are just filled with probably difficulty after difficulty and challenge after challenge. But those are great examples you just showed of the successes that we've had and the capability that our staff had. You know, with them being as dedicated as they are, they will find a way. So really do appreciate it. It was a great presentation.
Thank you. They do. They're very creative.
Thank you for your presentation, and please thank your staff. I particularly liked their individual videos because it kind of showcased particular areas where they were succeeding and their concerns as well. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. We'll be sure to let them know. I'm sure some of them are watching. So,
I hope so.
Dr. McNeil, great presentation. And yeah, the show must go on. I really like that we found success was possible. And one thing they each said was like, I don't know how we're gonna do this. This doesn't seem like it's gonna work. But everyone found a way to make it work. So that shows us that anything is possible. And you guys are doing a great job of bringing it to fruition. Thank you.
thank you.
Dr. McNeil, absolutely outstanding. And from a grandma who has a special needs grandchild, this is absolutely wonderful. And what really hit me was that success was created. To make something work, you have to work at it. And you guys have made this successful. So thank you and the staff. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wanted to add my thanks too, and understand these are students that in a lot of ways need us the most. And it could have been an easy decision to not have been creative and innovative in this situation, but you guys went above and beyond. So thank you again, and we really appreciate you and your staff.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, and just to add a little note there, Dr. McNeil she's done an amazing job stepping into this role as assistant superintendent this year, leading the ship. She's got great support behind her with her 2 directors who are in the view with us now, Dr. Jennifer Smith and Mr. Dwayne Williams. They're doing a great job in their roles, supporting the teachers. And you're right, we have amazing teachers out there who are doing some insurmountable tasks as they work through remote learning. So thank you all for your leadership, and to all of your staff that work with you, your coordinators and the teachers, in getting the job done.
And Dr. Rouse, before we move on, can we extend the public comment window to 8 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am, we can do that. By just stating that, we can make that available so that Sandy knows to keep track then of any more additional emails that may come in through till 8 o'clock. So before we get into my presentation, just a couple of things I want to highlight from my regular report. If I could ask Ms. Bradley, would you please show your video for just a moment? Ms. Anke Bradley? There she is. I just wanted to highlight an amazing talent that she brings to our district. You can see the logo for the annual conference behind her in her virtual screen. Anke led the planning committee that put on this annual conference for Learning Forward. It's an international conference. Maybe Anke, can you tell us, like, do you know about how many people attended and whatnot? It started on Sunday, it ended on Tuesday. A lot of our folks were able to participate because it was virtual. It was supposed to be down at McCormick Center in Chicago. I told Anke at this point I would have needed a Segway to get around that place, but so virtual was awesome. But Anke, can you tell us a little bit about the conference and about your planning committee and about how many people attended?
Good evening. Oh, thank you so much. So we had a conference of over 23 300 educators. The farthest was probably India, and the closest was probably, Joliet. We were a committee of 20 from districts all over the state of Illinois, and we just are so excited that it was so successful. It was the very first virtual conference that Learning Forward has ever had, and Joliet was supposed to present if it was at McCormick Place, but because it went virtual, we had to go from 350 sessions to 100 sessions. And so just thank you for the support. It was a great learning experience for all. And I've just been getting a lot of text messages from, some of our principals and coaches that attended, and Dr. Rouse as well. I thank you for the support. It was a really awesome experience, and learning happened throughout the entire, it was international, so throughout the entire world. So we're super excited, and next year it will be in, the conference will be in the Rockies. So we're looking forward. We don't know if it's going to be virtual yet or in person, but we're excited that we had a successful conference. So thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Well, the nice thing is you've showed them all it can be done virtually, and done well. It was very, very well done. So it was great to be able to have our district highlighted in that way, and your skills are noted. So
thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's nice when I've planned a statewide conference, but not an international one. So that was pretty it was pretty impressive. I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Other things on my report,
let me just say real quick, that's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Okay, yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so very much for representing our district, in the planning phase of that, and actually sharing your skill and your knowledge globally. So thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, congrats.
Yeah, an international conference. Whew.
Kudos.
Led by Joliet. Yay. Okay. Other things on my report, you can look at it. If you have questions for me, we can chat another time. I'm going to go ahead and get into our presentation. Let me share my screen here. I want to talk about our review of data and recommendations for our next steps in this pandemic. So we all know we're in the midst of the fun. So we're going to review some data tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about student attendance, some technology updates, talk about some in-person assessments, and the recommendations moving forward. So I'm going to start with region and county data. Region 7, as of the 7th of December, is at a 15.7% positivity rate, and the hospital bed availability has gone back up above 20%, which is good. It was below 20%, down to around 14% for a while. So we're going to keep watching that. Will County, the week of November 22nd through November 28th, there were 537 new cases. So that's just that week. The positivity rate that week, 17.4% for our county. 606 youth cases reported that week. 121 were 5 to 9-year-olds. 159 were 10 to 13-year-olds. The rest were high school age or college age. So far in the pandemic, there's been 787 elementary cases and 1,025 junior high age cases. In our zip code data, I put here, these were the percentages of positivity that I shared with you at our October board meeting based upon the zip codes. We had zip code 60431 was at 10.31% positivity rate. It's now at 17.34%. 60432 was at 5.98%. As of the 5th was at 24.72%. 60433, 10.98%, jumped up to 18.01. 60435, 9.9, up to 16.58. 60436, 6.19, up to 13.81. And citywide, all those numbers combined, the zip codes combined, 8.91% in October, now is up to 17.34%. So you can see some pretty dramatic jumps.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to just start by, again, this is information since the October board meeting. Since that time, we have had 370 staff members in total that have been sent home due to either self-certification or possible exposure. The average time away from the building has increased from 5 to 10 days to 7 to 14 days. Since our October board meeting, we have reported 51 staff positive COVID cases. 42 staff have taken or are still on our COVID-related leaves, and 76 students have also reported positive cases since our October meeting.
So as you can see, our attendance has dropped a little bit. But what I'd like to highlight is that it hasn't been significant considering the circumstances. We've only dropped a little close to 2%. And even through these times, I think it should be noted that we have 5 schools that's actually improved their attendance from this year to last year. That's attributed to the hard work that they're putting in trying to maintain a connection with students. We have had an increase in our truant students based on the state standards. Student that's missed more than 5% of the school year is considered truant. However, what I'm finding with our building administrators is that they are maintaining connections with families. In the circumstances, students are missing days. They're surviving in this pandemic. So the numbers have increased, but we're not looking at those students as students that we want to drop. We are connecting with families. We are having conversations with our parents, and therefore they maintain in our system as belonging to us as 86 students. But as a result, then our numbers look like they do. But as in terms of trying to support these families, just some of the things that we're doing is there's lots of home visits. We're having strategy meetings. Principals are calling me. We're having one-to-one meetings with them and their teams. There's after-school tutors. Teachers are doing some amazing things working with their students on their own personal time. They're assigning mentors and modifying the schedules and also building incentives to support our students.
Good evening. Update on student devices. With the Chromebooks, we've distributed over 10,000 Chromebooks to students in kindergarten through 8th grade, and that includes 1,250 new Chromebooks we received this July. We have on order 3,263 new Chromebooks, and only 63 of those have trickled in so far. There's a global supply shortage of processors, and everything is taking longer to get these days. We expected these Chromebooks in September, and the shipment delivery date just keeps getting extended. We also have another 1,416 Chromebooks that are due to ship by December 31st with an estimated delivery in February. We will swap out the new Chromebooks for a lot of the older ones, and once we do that, more than half of our students will be using a brand new Chromebook this year. The Mary Crest students are being issued Android tablets, Samsung tablets, that was acquired with grant funding. Regarding student connectivity, it remains a challenge for some of our families. To date, we have issued 793 student internet hotspots to families in need, and we will likely acquire more as we continue to evaluate the needs of our families. Mary Crest has also utilized grant funding to purchase an additional 200 hotspots for pre-kindergarten students. The Will County Remote Learning Grants, also referred to as County Cares, has provided the district with additional funding for student connectivity. We have utilized that funding to expand the hotspot data plan to unlimited data so that our kindergarten through 8th grade students using hotspots will have enough data to participate in all of their remote learning functions and activities. Providing students and parents with technology support is a challenge that we are striving to improve every day. Whether we repair Chromebooks in-house, send them for warranty repair, or send them for third-party repair, the process is taking a long time. all of our Chromebooks are either issued or somewhere in the repair process, which causes further delays because currently we don't have extra Chromebooks to provide to students as loaners. We've been banking on that shipment of new Chromebooks to arrive to alleviate many of the current delays and Chromebook issues. Once we receive those shipments, we'll be in a much better position to provide support. Additionally, we've made some changes to our student and family support model. In the previous version, parents submitted a form to our website, and that process, it proved slow and it did not provide the parents in the schools with information and transparency. In our new model, parents can send an email directly to our online help desk, which is automatically turned into a ticket in our system. We've also made it much simpler for employees to submit support request tickets on behalf of a student or family. We're installing contactless repair lockers in each quadrant to allow parents to drop off devices for repair without the need to interact with anyone in person. We are increasing our stock of replacement parts for repair, and we are bringing on a temporary technician to assist for a few months. We've also provided our technicians and coaches with greater access to systems and information to allow them to respond to support requests more thoroughly and efficiently. And we are also working on improving our communication to the families. And finally, I wanted to talk about the Hapara instructional suite, which is one of our big positive wins during remote learning. We selected Hapara to replace a previous system that went out of service at the end of 2019. We initially launched it in January of this year for grades 3 through 8. Hapara is a classroom management tool that allows teachers to see exactly what every student is doing on their assigned Chromebook. The teachers can use Hapara to easily redirect students, lock students into specific web pages, send them resources, and send them messages. This year, we expanded Hapara to all grade levels, and in October, we opened it up for use during remote learning during school hours. A letter was sent home to parents describing Hapara, and each school site was provided with training prior to launch. We receive messages from our teachers frequently about how the use of Hapara has helped transform the remote learning experience by providing the teachers with these features. Thank you.
As of today, the state of Illinois is requiring that districts have in-person testing for the access test and the Illinois Assessment of Readiness. Our district is preparing for those assessments, starting with the access testing. The testing window will be January 14th through February 12th. It will be for grades K through 8, and that's approximately 2,800 students, and those are bilingual students and our refusal students. The Illinois Assessment for Readiness, the testing window will be March 1st through April 30th. It's grades 3 through 8. That's approximately 6,800 students. Both tests will be taken in person at the student's home school. Each student will receive an appointment for testing, and the district will be providing transportation and lunch during testing.
So based on all this information, our recommendations that follow do include some involvement of in-person based upon the assessment, the mandated assessments. Students and staff will be in buildings in small controlled settings with appropriate PPE. There's training going on now for the access testing with the hope to not have to interrupt the normal classroom schedule as much by having some of our non-instructional staff, coordinators, administrators assist with that testing, but we're trying to work out that schedule. We noticed the need, specifically with our high need students, to try to have some small setting in person starting when possible. Don't have a date on that because we need to, again, modify and watch what's happening with the virus throughout our community. The recommendation in regards to our basic instructional setting is for us to remain fully remote for day-to-day instruction, to consider possible hybrid remote to begin March 2nd, which is the first day of the third trimester. And again, anything on the recommendations are subject to change depending on the data or depending on any kind of changes to mandates. We're going to continue tracking the COVID data, both all throughout the region, the county, and our Joliet zip codes. So the overall, the big picture here would be for us to not return to possible hybrid remote in January, but to push that out to March. But notice that we do need to have in-person assessments occurring starting mid-January based upon the mandates from the state. So we'll work to try to schedule those pieces. Those mandates they're mandates, so they are what they are. So what does this look like for us overall? December's almost over. We've got basically 7 more school days before the winter break begins. Then in January, we'll continue with this. The recommendation will be to continue with the remote learning through the month of January and through the month of February. February 26th is when the second trimester ends. And we would then possibly begin hybrid remote March 2nd, the first day of third trimester, with the hope of being able to continue that. The IAR testing, as Mrs. Bradley mentioned, would start March 2nd and continue through April. The hope being that we wouldn't have a whiplash effect once we are able to do hybrid, of having to go in and out based upon COVID realities, but we're going to have to keep track of all that data. And then we would end up May 28th is the last day for students. Teacher Institute Day on June 1st would be the last day for teachers. Our possible emergency days are here. I don't anticipate us needing to use those because of already being in remote learning. So we would be in a place to not potentially need those. Now, before we began this presentation, Inspector Roberts extended the public comment window to 8 o'clock, which is just a few minutes from now, which is perfect. So any other comments based upon the presentation can be considered later. So at this point, we'll entertain any questions or comments from the board. I'll stop sharing my screen so that we can see each other. So any questions or comments?
I think caution is the smart thing. Tomorrow will be what, 2 weeks from Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So I anticipate a rise in occurrences. So I'd like to see what the data says tomorrow, the next day, and the next day, to see how we did during the holiday, and before we even consider moving ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's the right decision. I think we've talked about, safety for students and staff is #1 priority. It's unfortunate. It's a bit frustrating. The challenges will continue on a day-to-day basis, but unfortunately, based on the numbers continuing to go the wrong direction, I don't think we have a choice, and I agree. I think it's most definitely the right move.
I appreciated the opportunity to speak with Dr. Rouse last week regarding this. The fact that people are still very reluctant to wear masks and social distance. I mean, we can all look at the news and be horrified at, airports and parties and what have you, but this is the reality that we deal with. Is there any indication that the state will move back the access testing?
Well, I've sent emails to ISB. I have also had a conversation. They have a phone number where it's for superintendents only to call. I called them Monday and I said, look, this is a little heart-wrenching to consider that we're asking people to come in the peak of the pandemic. They feel somewhat constrained based upon the federal mandates that are before the state. We don't have any relief at the moment. Could there be relief come before the testing window? Potentially, but we can't count on it. We have to prepare regardless with prepare for it to happen. And I'm still hoping. I'm going to be calling again probably tomorrow to the state, because I haven't heard anything back yet, to say, I was hoping to hear back from you. Where are we? Again, they're feeling a bit constrained because the current federal education department is not granting any waivers out of the mandated testings windows like they did last year. So with everything politically that happens at the federal level, we're not certain if there'll be a change or if we're going to have to continue forward with that. But as it stands right now, it's on the books as mandated. And there's quite a bit of the money that we get through Title III is directly tied to us following the mandates with access testing. And much of our other title money is also connected to the IAR test. So,
and the other significant number that really kind of slaps you in the face is the number of truancy students we have. I mean, that kind of took my breath away when I saw that. Do we have any help from the ROE? Other people that are stepping in addition? I know principals are interacting, teachers are making, some of them are even making home visits. So I understand that that's being done. But is there anything else that, you know, county-wide that they're doing regarding truancy? I'm sure we're not the only district that's impacted with this, but that number 200 plus is staggering.
It is. And actually, when you look at the big picture, as I indicated, I wanted to make sure I make the comparison between last year and this year. Overall, we're still doing very well considering. And the students, they're missing, those students, because they've missed more than 5% of the school year thus far, but they haven't completely disconnected. And so they're all dealing with life. We have some families that parents are working, so they can't put the kid on every day. If this was a traditional school year, those students would be referred to ROE, and in some cases even drop. But we're staying connected with them. Teachers are staying connected with them. Administrators are staying connected with them. So that's why those numbers look so great. It's not a matter of, it's not so much as what we can do, because we're in a pandemic and life has happened to so many people. But what we are doing is making sure that we stay connected, provide people with resources, and give them whatever it is they need. In some cases, families are still getting paper pencil packets because there's some situations where they just cannot be online during the time that we're in school. So because the state is requiring us to collect that attendance data, we have to collect it for what it is. But again, I want to highlight the very great work that's happening, which, you know, is still evident in our data that says that we're less than 2% difference from last year, which is a big deal.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I will tell you, it surprises me a bit, to be totally transparent with you, that our percentages are that high and doing that well. It's extremely positive. Deb, I couldn't agree more. It is staggering, and we need to continue to work that. And as Sunny explains, you know, I'm sure we all know of individuals that either both parents work or single parents work, and schedules just don't work out, and it's very, very difficult. And those are some of the challenges we'll continue to face. But seeing that 93%, and I know it's even higher than that, to me is a huge win for this current challenge that we're in.
And it's all attributed to the teachers and the connection they're making with students. They're making sure that the students want to come back and see their teacher's face. They want the little piece of normalcy in these little screens that we call school today. So we're, all things considered, District 86 is doing great work, and we're doing really well.
Other questions or comments? Okay.
Dr. Rouse, I appreciate you taking time to look at the data and present the data to us, and making decisions based on what's best for the district as a whole, and putting safety first. So thank you.
You're welcome. You know, as we have to, we can't base these things on our gut. We have to base them on science, and the science and math where they bear out. I do agree that the comment earlier that it was made that, you know, not everybody's wearing masks out there, and that's the community spread issue that we're dealing with across the city, but also across the state and the country. There's a lot to be said for what wearing a mask will do, and it will help protect us. I know people are doing a pretty good job within the district of wearing their mask. I've been in and out of the district office this week 2 different times. And everybody's doing a great job of, when they're out of their office, making certain they're in their mask and keeping distance at the same time. So we're trying to do our part, and it is a struggle, it's a challenge, but we're trying to work our way through. I know there's remote learning fatigue out there. It's real. Being on a computer screen and Zoom all day long is hard, and I know that that's the case. Unfortunately, we don't have too many choices right now to be able to access and reach our students, but our teachers and our site administrators, our principals are doing amazing work reaching them, trying to keep in touch with them, and like Dr. McNeil said, staying connected. So if we're staying connected, then we can try to meet some of those needs. In January, we'll be able to do our winter benchmark remotely. Our local assessment we can do remotely. We'll be able to see, what growth we've been making. I think there has been some growth. Has it been normal growth? No, probably not. But maybe, who knows? We'll have to see what the data shows us. But there's a lot of good things going on out there. There's a lot of good relationships that have been built in spite of the pandemic. I was in an interview the other day with an NPR reporter, and we talked a lot about the relationship building piece and how that really, I think, helped us as we started the year to spend 2 to 3 weeks of just building relationships with students, learning the platform, learning where we're going with this wonderful world of Zoom. And just that whole piece of making certain that we have that the social emotional work in there, the SEL curriculum, second step with the younger students, character strong with the older students. Those things are working to help us to meet our students where they are. The reality is our families didn't ask for us to do school in their homes, but that's the nature of a pandemic. We have to all modify and adjust and do the best that we can with what we have. And it's not perfect, but we're still able to do education to some extent. Will we need to catch people up later? Absolutely. And we will modify and adjust and put ourselves together for next year and fill those gaps in and help our students to get caught up where they might have gaps, because they will. And that's okay, because we're going to work with them and help make that gap less and diminished. So anyway, I appreciate your support. Conversations with each of you this last week were really helpful, and it's good to know that we're all being cautious, I think, being careful and following the science. Later in the meeting, there'll be an action item for you to take a vote on the recommendation. So we'll have public comment before that, and then we'll take the vote later in the meeting. So that's all for that report. The Freedom of Information requests are in board docs. There were 3 of them received, and they've all been responded to.
Make a motion to go into closed session under the following exceptions of section 2C. 1, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees or hearing a complaint against an employee. 2, collective negotiating matters or deliberations concerning salary schedules for classes of employees. 9 and 10, student discipline and other matters relating to individual students. 11 is pending, probable, or imminent litigation. 21, closed session minutes. Can we entertain a motion and second?
So moved.
Second.
Stephanie, can you do roll?
Yes. Inspector Contos?
Aye.
Inspector Pritz?
Aye.
Inspector Doris?
Aye.
Inspector Zeke? Inspector Ulmer?
Aye.
Inspector Stanfield?
Aye.
Inspector Zeke?
Aye.
Inspector Roberts?
Aye. Motion carries. We will return shortly.
Okay, go ahead, Tanya.
All right, we will call the meeting to Stephanie.
Yes. Consent agenda. The action items listed under the consent agenda are routine business items that will be adopted by a single motion of the board unless a board member or the superintendent requests an item be removed from the consent agenda, discussed and voted on separately.
Okay, so the items on the consent agenda include minutes of closed session, minutes regular meeting November 10th, report number 89, resolution authorizing previously approved closed session minutes to remain confidential, report number 90, payroll, treasurer's report and bills, report number 91, resolution authorizing directing tax levy, report number 92, personnel report, compensation, hiring, promotion, termination, including resignation, discharge, and retirement, change of status, report number 93, resolution approving the quality framework for Illinois schools, report number 94, revised meeting schedule of the Board of School Inspectors, report number 95, gifts, and report number 96, resolution granting the permanent non-exclusive sump pump drainage line easement to the property owners of 424 Apollo Drive, Joliet, Illinois.
Okay. Are there any requests to remove an item to be discussed and voted on separately? No? Okay, can we entertain?
I'm sorry, Tanya, I couldn't unmute mine. 96 about the sump pump. I just want some clarification about what exactly that involves. So that's number 96.
So you want to pull it?
Yes, because I have some questions about it.
So can we entertain a motion on the remaining consent agenda minus report number 96?
So moved.
Second.
Stephanie?
Inspector Cantos?
Aye.
Inspector Pritz?
Aye.
Inspector Doris?
Aye.
Inspector Zeke?
Aye.
Inspector Ulmer? Inspector Stanfield?
Aye.
Inspector Ulmer? Inspector Roberts?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Everyone has voted.
Motion carries. Okay, Deb, what do you have?
Well, I just wanted some clarification about it. This is the district sump pump, but it's on adjacent property. Can somebody just clarify that?
Dr. Rouse, I can respond.
Thank you, Nick. Go for it.
Yeah, this is a request by a property owner on Apollo Drive that has drainage problems. Right now, their sump runs onto the street at Apollo Drive, freezes over the sidewalk in the winter. I don't know if you can pull up the document, actually the plat of survey. It's as one of the exhibits to the resolution.
I can't pull it up right now.
Okay, there is at the northwest corner of Jefferson property.
Can you see it now, Deb?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So at that northwest corner of the Jefferson property where the asphalt path takes a turn, there's already a City of Joliet catch basin in there that the school district has given the city an easement for, to put a catch basin in to drain that area.
Okay.
These individuals that we're granting a private easement to reside at what you see as lot 263. And they want to take a sump pump drain line and run it from their lot onto our property along that fence and tie it into the catch basin that's just a lot and a half north of them. So, So this easement would allow them to run that catch basin or run that sump drain line out to the catch basin. And they are responsible for returning the property to its condition as it was before they put that drain line in. They've contracted with PDM to do the work. So they're a reputable local sewer, water, plumbing contractor to run the line out from the back of their lot and then hook it into that catch basin. So this is the district granting easement to the lot owners of lot 263.
Okay, so it's gonna run into a catch basin that we already have then?
Well, it's a catch basin that the city runs and owns.
Okay. Okay.
I think in this scenario, Nick, they've worked with the city and this is the best and possibly only option one way or the other, right?
Yeah, I think so. There are, I know there's some lots along there that have a lot of drainage problems. You know, we've gotten a couple of calls over the last year, and this would appear to be a good solution. We're wondering if maybe some other of the lot owners might end up wanting to do something similar, but for now, for these lot owners, it looks like that'll work for them. And with the good weather, they may be, if you adopt this, be able to start work tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Inspectors Cantos,
Aye.
Inspector Pritz,
Aye.
Inspector Doris,
Aye.
Inspector Zeke,
Aye.
Inspector Ulmer,
Aye.
Inspector Stanfield,
Aye.
Inspector Roberts,
Aye, motion carries. Dr. Rouse?
Okay, for our next item, Mrs. Mitchell will introduce our auditors. We brought to your home or we picked up from the building a copy of the district audit. So if you have your book handy, as the presentation goes on, you'll be able to flip through and see what's being mentioned. So this was brought to your home yesterday, or you got yours today, Mr. Stanfield. So you all have that. So Mrs. Mitchell, if you'd like to go ahead and take control.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's good to see everyone this evening. With us tonight, we have Dave Meyer with Wormer Rogers, Doran and Ruzon. Dave has been the audit partner that we've worked with since first engaging the firm back in 2017. He's here tonight to discuss the audit. The year ended June 30th, 2020. And so with that, I will turn the meeting over to Dave.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me. Typically we do this in person, obviously a different year. And it was a different year at the district as well. When we were out performing our services, the district was closed on Fridays and various staff members were working remotely and whatnot. And that was not just District 86. That was all the different school districts that we work with throughout the area. So it was a very challenging year for audits, but we were able to complete our procedures. And so I'd like to go through the reports. And if you want to hit the next slide. And I think I lost track of my slides here on the screen.
Bear with me, the slides are not advancing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have any fancy videos or anything, so it's going to be pretty much slide after slide, but we'll get through it just the same. Well, while we're trying to get the slideshow restarted, one of the slides that we're going to come to pretty early on is, what do we do when we do an audit? And so one of the things that we do is we get information from the district which involves generally it's your general ledger where you're recording all your transactions. And then our job is to look at those numbers and determine whether or not they're fairly stated. So we do a lot of testing on the cash balances. We look at payroll and test. We don't look at every single transaction. We do tests, but we test to make sure people are making the right amount of money when it comes to payroll. We test the accounts payable that were approved by the board and make sure that the items we test were for school district business. We look at revenues. We verify your property taxes with the county. We verify your grant revenues with the state. We also look at your long-term debt, make sure that you made your bond payments. And we also test your grants and grant compliance. So there's a lot that goes into an audit, a lot of documents. And I want to let you know that the staff, Tamara and Angela Brown and Elizabeth Shields were our main contacts, and everyone did a great job. They're very professional. They take their job seriously, and they take the audit very seriously as well. And they were able to provide us with everything we needed. So thanks to the district and those individuals and their staff for making the audit go smoothly. Along with all the work that we do, we prepare reports, and one of them is the comprehensive annual financial report. And I think you all have copies. It's the thickest report with a plastic comb along the edge. And the comprehensive annual financial report this year had a total of 126 pages. It's in 3 separate sections. There's an introductory section, a financial section, and also a statistical section. And I'm not going to touch on every single page. I'm just going to pick out a few select pages. But the district's financial condition has improved greatly over the past several years. And along with that, you've also improved a lot of your various procedures. And so let me take a quick look at page IX, Roman IX, and that's in the very front of the book. It's in the introductory section. And what this is the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. And this was awarded to the district for its comprehensive annual financial report for the year ended June 30th, 2019. And what this signifies is that the district is reporting at the highest level possible. There's a lot of districts that do not receive this certificate, and you have to go above and beyond basically to present your financial statements in accordance with all of the requirements of the Association of School Business Officials. And so you did get the award, and you're going to be submitting the 2020 CAFR for consideration for another award. So that's a great honor for the district there. We go to the next slide. On pages 1 through 3 of the annual financial report, this is in the financial section. That's the independent auditors report, and that's the report from us as auditors to you, the district. So we need to go back a slide. There we go. So it takes us 3 pages to basically say what's at the top of page 2, and that is, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the district. So we're giving what's called an unmodified or a clean opinion on the financial statements. So, and that's what you want. You want an unmodified opinion on your financial statements. We'll go to the next slide. And if you don't want to look at the whole CAFR, one place to look would be the management's discussion and analysis, and that's on pages 4 through 12. And I'll just touch on one of the tables in there in that section. It's in figure A1. It's the condensed statement of net position, and this is in millions of dollars. And you can see the change. The management's discussion and analysis is basically a comparison of the current year, 2020, with the prior year, 2019. And you can see the current and other assets have increased approximately 17 million from 2019 up to 2020. And current and other assets is basically your cash and investments, and then also receivables. And so you can see the assets have gone up quite a bit there. Your capital assets, buildings, equipment, et cetera, went down a little bit. That was due to depreciation exceeding new capital assets. One other thing I want to point out on this page is the long-term debt outstanding has gone down. And we'll take another quick look at that again in a few slides from now, but that's a good thing when your debt goes down and your assets are going up. And you can see also down near the bottom of the page, your total net position went from 1.7 million to 22.7 million. So that's your assets minus your liabilities. And if you remember a couple years ago, the district had to adopt a couple of new financial reporting standards that dealt with pensions and other post-employment benefits, and that greatly increased your liabilities. And that's what pushed you into it really lowered your net position, but now the net position is again rebounding, if you will. We can go to the next slide. And taking a look at the financial statements themselves on page 18, we can kind of see the changes in fund balances of the different funds of the district. And you can see the general fund, the fund balance was 86 million at the end of 19. It went up by 16.8 million up to 85.3 million there. And you can see transportation fund also increased. It went up by about 1.3 million. Debt service, 200,000. Capital projects, you spent down some of your outstanding balances there, so that went down somewhat. And then your non-major funds are your fire, life safety, and your IMRF fund. And those went down about $100,000. So you had a positive gain of 17.8 million in your fund balances of your governmental funds. And you can see the general fund, that's a combination of education, operation and maintenance, working cash, and your tort immunity fund. So a big increase there in the general fund. We'll go to the next slide. And again, now we're going to kind of compare last year to this year. And in looking at last year, all the revenues received was 205 million. This year, 216. So an increase in revenue of nearly 11 million. Now I want to point out 5.9 million of that increase was that on behalf payments. And the on behalf payments are both revenues and expenditures. And those relate to the amounts that were contributed by the state of Illinois to the various pension plans on behalf of your employees. So that wasn't really direct receipts or direct expenses. Those were sort of done off the books, if you will, but then you're required to report those in your financial statements. But the items that did increase from the prior year, property taxes were up. That CPPRT, that's the replacement tax. It's called payments in lieu of taxes on that page 18. And then unrestricted state grants, which is basically your evidence-based funding was higher. Federal sources were higher. Amounts that were similar to last year, transportation and food service. And then a couple of items went down, tuition, earnings on investments, pupil activities, other revenues, and restricted state grants. And some of those had to do with the pandemic, resulting in some lower revenues there. When we go to the next slide, we've got the expenditures, and you can see expenditures increased by 5 million. And really 5.9 million of that increase was related to on behalf payments going up. And the amounts that were similar to the prior year: instruction, support service, community services, payments to other governments, and debt service. And then the capital outlay decreased somewhat from the prior year. So those were some of the changes year over year, if you will, for expenditures of the district. And we can go to the next slide. If we take a look at the general funds fund balance at the end of the year, 85 million, and divide that into the expenditures, we can see that we had about approximately 5.9 months of fund balance at the end of the year. And if we take out the on behalf, which again are not direct expenses, you were really closer to 8 months of fund balance on hand. So that's a really good position to be in. A lot of districts do not have those types of resources on hand to begin the next school year. We can go to the next slide. After the financial statements are what's called the notes to the financial statements, and the notes go from pages 21 to 55. And these notes to the financial statements are basically required disclosures. And one page I wanted to point out on page 32 is a summary of the debt outstanding. And I got a little arrow pointing to the total general obligation bonds. And that first column is the balance at the beginning of the year. That's July 1st, 2019. And then any additions that happened during the year. Deletions are our payments, basically. And then the balance at the end of the year. And you can see your long-term debt went down approximately $7 million during the year. So that's a good sign. You're paying down your debt, and your debt is lower at the end of the year than it was at the beginning of the year. We can go to the next slide. Before we jump all the way to page 102, I want to point out that there's, after the notes to the financial statements, there's what's called required supplementary information. And basically there's some budgetary comparisons. There's schedules of pensions related to the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, Teachers Retirement System, etc. And then after those required supplementary information schedules, there's information about the individual funds, and you can see the different funds with their budgets, what happened on the actual base, what actually happened during the year, and then also a variance with the budget. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on any of those, but basically all this information is sort of review in a way, because you've seen all these numbers in the past in the treasurer's reports and whatnot. So this is kind of a summary of what happened all in one book, if you will. When we get to page 102 and 103, I just wanted to point out that the EAV, the equalized assessed value of the district, went up 15.2%. And likewise, the tax rate, the extended tax rate went down nearly 4%. So those are two positive signs that the value of the properties are increasing and that the tax rate went down. That's back in the statistical section. And back in the statistical section, there's a lot of tables of numbers, mostly on a 10-year basis, where you can kind of see where were we this most recent year as compared to the prior year, and even going back 10 years. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking at those numbers. You can certainly do that on your own. And if you had any questions, certainly contact Tamara. And if she needs to contact me, she can get a hold of me, and we can get any question you want answered. Any questions about the comprehensive annual financial report? Again, great job by the district in providing all the information to pull this all together. And we can certainly have time for some questions at the end as well. One other report that does get filed, and this is a report that goes into the state of Illinois. It's the state AFR form. it's not presented in the documents you have, but it is available to be viewed, and once it's put up on the state website, it'll be out there on the internet for anyone to see it. And one thing I did want to point out, there's one page in the state AFR form, and again, it's basically a recap of what's in the comprehensive annual financial report. It's the same numbers, it's just in the state's format. But on the next slide, there's what's called an estimated financial profile summary. And down at the bottom, you can kind of see there that your estimated financial profile designation at the very bottom of that slide is recognition. That's as high as you can go. You're in the highest category, recognition. So you have a 3.9 score based on their grading system, and the highest you could be is 4.0. So you're right there at the recognition level. So that's a good thing. There's some districts that are on the watch list, and you don't want to be on the watch list or the warning list. So along with the financial statements, we also do what's called a single audit. I believe that's on the next slide. What the single audit is we test your federal grants, and we want to make sure that you're abiding by the grant agreements, that you're adhering to the grant budget, that you're submitting reports on time to the state, that you're charging only grant-related items to the grant. And so that's kind of what the single audit involves. And if you want to go to the next slide, there's on page 10 of that single audit report. This is in a separate document. It's not in the comprehensive annual financial report, but it's in its own document with a plastic comb along the edge. We have a summary of auditors' results, and we mention again that we expressed an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. And in here under point number 2, we say there were no material weaknesses. Point number 3, no significant deficiencies, no instances of non-compliance. And for the federal awards, there were, again, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and no audit findings. So a good report for the district as it relates to the federal awards that were tested for the year ended June 30th, 2020. No audit findings to be reported. And we can move on to the next document. There's what we call other deliverables. We have a couple of letters that are required auditor letters of communication. They're pretty boilerplate in nature. They just discuss basically the responsibilities of the auditor and the responsibilities of the auditee, and that on the next slide. And then there's a communication with those charged with governance at the conclusion of the audit. And in addition to that letter, we also list adjusting journal entries that were made during the audit. So if you take your final general ledger and then you add to it the journal entries, you would get what was presented in the comprehensive annual financial report. So it's kind of just A plus B equals C sort of deal there. And so it's very transparent to see what was done to get to the audited amounts. Our audit journal entries are very typical auditor type entries made to basically record changes in long-term debt and capital assets and reclassify items for financial reporting purposes. And then the last item that I want to talk about in the other deliverables section is the management letter. And so in this year's management letter, while we're out doing what's called a financial statement audit, if we see any areas where there could be improvements made, we'd like to point those out in the management letter. And actually this year there were 2 comments that were removed from the prior year's management letter. So you made some corrections there. One related to recording the capital outlay expenditures, and the other one related to maintaining documentation and avoiding paying sales tax on the credit cards and P-card transactions. So we did not have any new comments to be added in 2020. There was one repeat comment that related to the treasurer's bond. The bond was not at a sufficient level. You were just a tad below where you needed to be in the amount of your treasurer's bond. So we're recommending that you increase the bond. And then also there's a comment in there about a future GASB, which is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. They have a new statement that's going to take effect next year. It was going to take effect in 2020. It's called GASB 84, and it's going to change the way you report your student activity funds. But the GASB gave everyone a 1-year break due to the pandemic. So instead of 2020, it's going to be a 2021 issue. And I think we go to the last slide, and that's the old question mark slide. So if anybody has any questions about the audit, what we do during the audit, or any of the documents, please fire away.
No questions. I think it was a very comprehensive report. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the work that you and your company have done. I think this year the continuation of being fiscally responsible throughout the district and the care and management truly shows well in this report. Congratulations, and thank you so very much, Tamara, for all the work that you do and your entire team, and again on the certificate of excellence. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
I would like to echo Jeff's comments with the caveat that we continue to be very fiscally careful. We have no idea what's going to happen in the next 6, 8, 10 months with COVID. You know, this is impacting so many of our families, and it's just something we need to keep in the back of our minds when we're looking at projects, spending money. We just need to be cautious. But I really appreciate all the work that both the accounting team and Tamara's team has done. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you again. Wonderful job, Tamara.
Right, thank you. And thank you so much, Dave, for the presentation.
Okay. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so
the next item is report number 97, which is a resolution accepting the audit and placing it on file.
So moved.
Second.
Stephanie?
Inspector Contos?
Aye.
Inspector Pritz?
Aye.
Inspector Doris?
Aye.
Inspector Zeke?
Aye.
Inspector Ulmer?
Aye.
Inspector Stanfield?
Aye.
Inspector Roberts?
Aye, motion carries. We will give opportunity for visitors to speak. Sandy, is there anyone who would like to address the board?
Yes, we have several messages. So I'd like to begin, if that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The first one says, hello, Joliet 86 board members. I am Quentin Rosser. The question I'm going to bring up in this email is not going to be about the most pressing because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It is of utmost importance because of the long-term essential crisis this district faces from not having a dual language program. I have a question to the board. Why does District 86 not offer the opportunity of dual language education for elementary students? Surrounding Chicagoland schools like Yorkville, Naperville, West Chicago, Aurora, Romeoville, and other districts offer district dual language programs. These schools cultivate high-functioning students, yet some of these schools differ in parental, socio-economic status and resources from PTAs, but this does not excuse the failure of providing dual language programs. This district has neglected all of its elementary students, especially Hispanic and African American students. There is thorough research showing the powerful effects of dual language programs on educational outcomes. The students and families of District 86 are being stripped of opportunities that fluency in 2 languages can provide for their future in the community. If some of the top districts in the surrounding areas are implementing these programs, why is District 86 not following suit and observing what works? What steps will the district take to implement elementary dual language programs? If the board would like data supporting my question and recommendation, I would be happy to provide this information. Thank you for your time. The next message says, Dear Joliet 86 leadership, my name is Bev Scalar and I'm a 4th grade teacher at Thomas Jefferson Elementary School. This year I am lucky enough to teach an inclusion class of 22 students with Sue Martin Special Education. We call them our Scalar Martin Stars. Teaching remotely has its challenges and overcoming them together has led to rich rewards. I took the plunge and taught summer school last year for the first time ever. I knew it would jumpstart my remote teaching skills, which strengthened my confidence for the uncertainties ahead during the historic pandemic. We followed the guidance of the Joliet 86 and took as many tech trainings as possible in July and August. Then Sue and I hit the ground running as we welcomed families at our best ever attended Zoom open house. We began this year knowing our families better than ever before. Even though we have seen very few students in person, our stronger connection to families is one surprise for reward of teaching remotely. It Takes a Village has heightened meaning this school year, and Joliet 86 parents, guardians, extended family continue to amaze. They've opened their homes and hearts to build the relationships and accountability so necessary for successful e-learning. Considering our students are a little older, teaching the first 3 weeks of technology tools embedded within fun, engaging tasks was a joy to behold. Students struggled and over time succeeded in mastering Google Classroom, Padlet, Google Docs, Google Slides, inserting images, organizing materials, navigating within Jamboard, and more. As their tech skills improved, we introduced new platforms for foundations such as Whiteboard Chat, which amazingly allows us to see their real-time responses to dictated sounds, words, and sentences. I told them just today that I feel like I'm glancing over their shoulder whenever we're in whiteboard.chat. As a teacher, I learned to slow down and inspire patience in the collective group. Remote learning simply requires more time to help students remain on task and apply the skills. Beyond delivering the 4th grade Common Core state standards within the curriculum map, we've been able to truly build community with a mostly muted class. Students have learned to express themselves in the chat as long as it's related to the assignments, helps a classmate, or alerts teachers to a need. Our chat is open 100% of the time, and students rarely misuse the space. We include plenty of time for creative student jobs, such as the daily weather report, DJ, a 5-minute song after lunch, and brain break. Since leading the Pledge of Allegiance and Peace Pledge isn't necessarily a favorite job, I attached Joke Teller to its responsibilities. Students now beg for the Peace Pledge of Allegiance joke position as they love wowing each other with the punchline after lunch. The best part is how we've learned to accommodate different processes, styles within Zoom. Each day, a different student chooses a secret word for the day. On key problems, we'll ask them to answer in the chat, but not until they hear the secret word. This has provided more brain processing time for students who need it. There's nothing more satisfying than yelling out unicorn rainbows and witnessing the chat instantly populate with 18 answers to a multiplication problem. Students who miscalculate can immediately reflect on their error and solve again. Most importantly, students are engaged and have more time to apply skills at their current level. Recognition is another key motivator for the Scalar Martin Stars. After learning about badge wars this past summer from Erin McDonald, a fantastic middle school teacher at Gompers, we created our own form of badge wars in August. Students earn a variety of badges from perfect attendance, out-of-the-box thinker, problem solver, kindness crew, you made us smile, and dozens more. Each trimester, the badge earners are awarded a small prize along with the several honorable mention moments, like the time a student played one of the most
inspirational DJ songs after lunch. Anson Spara's Welcome to the World music video all had us weeping and resulted in a meaningful chat about how we deal with loss and retain hope for the future. One refrain of the song goes like this: "Nothing around here is quite as it seems, not sure if anything's real or a dream, and the only thing sure from the start is a song that's inside of your heart. Don't let it leave." I can assure you, Joliet 86 students, teachers, staff, and administration haven't lost the song of education that lies deep in our hearts. While the pandemic and the Zoom teaching may feel like everything has changed, we still greet our students each morning with a smile, catch up on their lives, and share laughs in the chat. Then we start our first lesson of the day, just like each day in the classroom. The classroom we will return to one day when it's safe. Warm regards, Bev Sklar. The next one is from Marco Arroyo. The words remote learning are words that have quickly acquired negative connotations. Politicians, parents, and educators themselves will say that in-person learning is essential. They will stress that remote learning has numerous disadvantages. I am not going to attack, discredit, or contradict these viewpoints. I will instead choose to focus on the positive aspects of remote learning. Remote learning can offer our students new ways to grow and expand their knowledge. There are several positive aspects of remote learning that I have witnessed throughout the first portion of the school year. Our students are more proficient with technology than ever. Our students have learned to work more efficiently and independently with new innovative tools. Our communication and engagement with families has gone above and beyond what it was during in-person learning. The majority of educators that I know would prefer to work with these students in person. That being said, I believe we have to look at our current predicament as a new way to help our students grow and prosper through a difficult situation. I truly believe that the skills that the students are developing now will only assist them when they can physically be in the classroom once more. The next one is from Daisha Franks. There is clearly a downside to remote learning. However, I do believe that it's been the right thing to do. The positive side of the unimaginable situation has been the interdependence among colleagues to think outside of the box and get things done. There has been an increase in communication and connectedness to families. Educators and students avoided unnecessarily emotional distress over contracting the virus in their learning environment, which has been a safe space for students. Lastly, families impacted by this pandemic are home where they can take care of loved ones and still work. The next one is from Erin McDonald. Hello, Board of School Inspectors. I thank you for the extensive time and effort that has been put into ensuring that we are returning to our physical school buildings in a timely manner while keeping the safety of our students, family, and staff at the forefront. Challenging decisions have had to be made, all of which undoubtedly have been met with resistance from multiple parties. As a teacher in the district, as I reflect on trimester 1, I am shocked to say that while in some cases it may be marginal, my students are learning in a non-conventional way, but learning nonetheless. A huge and continuous challenge of remote learning in our community is the access to high-speed, reliable internet. As the availability of hotspots and the process for parents requesting and receiving hotspots are mainstreamed, I saw a dramatic increase in my student participation. While every single day is a true challenge for teachers, students, and families, we have managed to celebrate triumphs along the way that have allowed my classes to grow as community of learners through projects, games, and discussions. The triumphs in mind, it is without a doubt that inequity remains. Despite ingenuity and creativity, major groups of learners have needs that are not being met. We have students with special needs who must be serviced in a physical classroom to receive necessary accommodations. We have many students who are still chronically truant with the few resources necessary to get these students into their virtual classrooms. We have thousands of students learning amid a worldwide collective trauma with no time devoted to social emotional support. There are exceptional students for whom teachers are working tirelessly to instruct, engage, support, and love. It's clear at this point that simply is not enough. I know these decisions do not get easier. I urge you to please keep these learners at the forefront of your decision-making, as their teachers do constantly. I thank you for your time and your continued reflection that is necessary to support our teachers, our children. Good evening, school board members. As you hear tonight, please remember I am a teacher in the district ready to go back to school. With 4 months of virtual teaching under my belt, I feel confident stating my opinion and having it hold weight. Virtual learning does not work for younger students or most students in general. Students are failing assignments, assessments at a higher rate than normal. Many students are having a hard time retaining the information taught because of the way it's being taught and because of all the extra distractions with learning at home. As a teacher, I don't have control over that, and it breaks my heart every day. Many parents are doing the work for the students or helping them complete the assignments. This makes it very difficult to see an accurate picture of what our students are capable of. 5 hours logged into Zoom is too long for our students, no matter how many breaks we take. Yes, students are normally in school for over 6 hours a day, but being on a computer and staring at a screen for that long is very different. It's exhausting and draining. There are some things that cannot be taught effectively through a computer screen. Holding a pencil properly when writing was the hardest thing I've ever tried to do. Parents are overwhelmed with the expectations to make sure their children are logged in, learning, and making good choices. There are homes with multiple students logged into computers all at once, which make for poor connectivity and distractions. Privacy is also out the window during virtual learning. If students need to be redirected by the teacher, then you run the risk of a parent getting on the Zoom call. It's happened to me twice, and trying to explain the behavior with the entire class listening. Attendance is poor for many students. I have 2 students who have missed half of the school year already. They miss 1 to 2 days a week. Because they aren't logged in every day, I spend even more instructional time going over expectations and spend my free time contacting parents. But the behavior doesn't change. Their homes are chaotic, and we are seeing it firsthand. Side note, the administration at my school has done a phenomenal job supporting me with the issues I've stated above. During parent-teacher conferences, I talked with many parents of my students. Every single one of them wants their child back in school. Have the parents been given a chance to give their opinions on this? Now, I know the data shows how high the infection rate is throughout the district. Obviously, more people are getting COVID right now, but what about the recovery rate in our area? What is that number? I'd be interested in seeing that information. I know everyone's physical safety is a priority, but what about our mental health? This is hard, very hard for everyone. While we can do this remotely, and we have done a good job with teaching our students to the best of our ability, that doesn't mean it's the best option. I'm not saying let's go back in person next week. I'm asking that the data be monitored closely, and if we are able to go back to a hybrid model earlier than March 2nd, we should try. We should offer parents and teachers the option. Perhaps we go back in phases. Special ed students and bilingual students first, then kindergarten and first graders, etc. I am willing to be on a committee that figures out solutions for this, whatever it takes to get our students back in some form of in-person learning. Now I know your data shows how high the infection rate is throughout the district. Obviously, more people are oh, sorry, that's the end of that one. I am writing to advise the board on our successes with remote learning, as well as my concerns with returning to hybrid mode. I am a special ed teacher, and I have been having success with my students to date. We have really worked hard to learn to do this to make our students successful. I am concerned, though, with returning to school during the time COVID is likely to increase, as well as returning to hybrid. Where will I be responsible to teach students in my classroom as well as online? I'm afraid the time spent managing both of these things will cause learning to go downhill quickly. I want my students and my colleagues to stay safe. Kelly Cisco. And I think I have one more that came in time. You bear with me, sorry. It froze. Okay, and the last one we have is for Corinne Mateo. Hello, I've been a 5th grade teacher for 19 years in the district. Challenges and issues come and go, but this has been the hardest year. Teaching remotely with daily tech issues is hard. Teaching English to newcomer students over the computer is hard. Teaching 10-year-olds to multiply 3-digit numbers and round decimals remotely is hard. Losing sight of your students' faces every time you share your screen is hard. But do you know what else is hard? Having your husband hospitalized with COVID for 2 weeks in the spring was hard. Catching it myself and coughing so much I could hardly breathe was hard. Telling my kids their grandmother died only 1 week after being diagnosed with COVID, that was hard and heartbreaking. So I support continued remote teaching because it keeps my students and their families safe. I find ways to connect with my students. They love receiving mail. I adjust my teaching and learn new tools to teach with and new ways to evaluate the learning. And I will give all of this because as much as it makes me crazy and frustrated, my students will only hear from me that I love being their teacher and that we are on this learning adventure together and we will be okay. I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you. The board would like to extend our gratitude for those that did take time to send in their comments, question and views. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Dr. Rouse, do you want to talk about report 98?
Certainly. Report 98 is the request for a decision on the recommendation for us to, as was presented previously, to move our hybrid remote possible return to March 2nd. Follow the mandates that are before us with testing, unfortunately. Hope that those change. Begin to work with some small groups of high need students when possible. And we'll continue to follow the data. I know it's tough. I know it's hard out there, and I know everybody is working very, very hard to make this thing work, and are doing the best they can with what they're doing. And I appreciate that so much. So that's the recommendation before you for report number 98.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Stephanie?
Inspector Contos,
Aye. Yes.
Inspector Pritz,
Aye.
Inspector Doris,
Aye.
Inspector Zeke,
Aye.
Inspector Ulmer,
Aye.
Inspector Stanfield,
Aye.
Inspector Roberts,
Aye. Motion carries. Do we have any board or superintendent comments? I first want to say, I think it was Mrs. Mateo, that sent in a letter into all others in our district that have lost family members and loved ones, that we do offer our heartfelt condolences to you. I don't want to overlook that. I do want to offer our condolences. Do we have any other comments?
Speaking of condolences, we lost a teacher this week who's taught at Keith. He's taught at Woodland. I've been in his classroom reading, and that is John Ledbetter. He leaves behind a wife who was a teacher at Taft and 2 daughters, and Mrs. McFadden, who was mentioned by the teaching team of Martin and Sclair as being a great help. She lost her husband this week. I've spoken to another teacher who has been very sick with COVID. Her daughter is sick and her house burned to the ground in October. So, I mean, every time, I think, for me, I had a heart attack this year. There are people that I know, a former teacher down the block and her husband were both gravely ill with COVID. You know, it's everywhere. And is being back in class the ideal? Absolutely. But I mean, we cannot ignore the statistics, and we cannot ignore the loss that our district has personally had. My neighbor behind me died of COVID and left her 15-year-old daughter. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, I rarely get outside, and it's, you know, everybody is dealing with this, you know, being cooped up, having people that you care about very dearly that you can't have contact with, especially at the holidays. You know, we just have to be mindful of everyone. That's our responsibility. Wear a mask and stay away from people is probably the best thing you can do. But I think we do need, you know, to bear in mind the loss that our district just had personally. Great teachers, their families. It's heartbreaking. And, you know, I'm sure many of our students and many of our families that we don't even know about are having the absolute worst year. So, you know, it's just something that we have to be mindful of and say a prayer for them.
Yeah, my only comment would be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sunny that mentioned that the children, their experience in life, there are things that's going on, and we may not be able to see, but they may be suffering loss as well. You don't know who's connected to who's lost whom, and I think it's just best to say stay safe.
You know, I would agree in both Deb and Tanya, great comments. The only thing I can add is again, just thank you. Thank you for every single person in the district that's going above and beyond, because we know that it's happening every single day. And when I say every day, I mean 7 days a week. There's not a doubt in my mind. I know there's people spending their Saturday and Sundays trying to get their week put together to give our students the best education possible in this particular situation. And it's not fun. It's not fun, but there is positive out there. We see it in the numbers. Dr. Rouse, as you suggested earlier, is it where we think it could or should be if we were in person? No, it probably isn't. But seeing what we are, the attendance rates and the gains that we are seeing with the student is truly based on the hard work and the dedicated folks we have day in and day out. So I would just add a thank you to and a positive side to all the down that we're seeing.
Yeah.
I thank you for all the information. The weekly reports, I don't know that I've seen or had this much information come my way in any term that I was on. So I thank you for all the information that you give us monthly and weekly. And, you know, it's a tough period of time we're in. We're all going to talk about this one for a long time when it's over. But the storm is passing. We just have to hold on because the eye is coming through. That's where we are right now. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'll just say that I appreciate all of you and your support. And, you know, it is tough. Monday was a really hard day hearing about the 2 losses from the weekend. And just, you know, that's kind of what pushed me over the edge to call ISB and say, are you kidding? We cannot, how can I in good conscience ask people to do this? You know, it's the mandates are the mandates, but we're gonna do what we can to do what we can. So I'm gonna keep trying to pressure them for changes if we can get them, but we will do what we can because we have to keep people safe. We have to do what's right for our staff and students along the way. So I do immensely appreciate your support. Every time we're able to have a one-on-one phone conversation or a Zoom conversation, it helps me because it gives me that that information from you, what you're hearing out there, what you're feeling to be able to add to our discussions at the cabinet level, at the principal level, and every level that we have all these conversations to move us forward. So thank you for all that you do to support us in getting the work done. And a big shout out to Mrs. Mitchell for yet another clean audit report. It's always nice to have clean audits because it's a great, we can be a healthy organization in all other levels, but if we're not healthy financially, we're in trouble. And so it's nice to know that we're healthy financially, and she's keeping us on the straight and narrow. And yeah, and just everybody's working hard. So thank you to all the teachers, paraprofessionals, nutrition, BSS, those folks, oh my goodness, the work they're getting accomplished right now with us in remote is astounding. I'm going to have a report from them in January that I think will just blow your socks off for all the work that's getting done in this crazy time. To our administrators, there's been a lot of them suffering with COVID realities as well. Being able to work from home and, trying to work when you're battling COVID is a tough one. And some people are able to manage through because their symptoms aren't as bad and others are not. And, so that support piece and, keeping us rolling forward. So staying safe and healthy as we come into the holiday season. And just want to say happy holidays to everybody out there. As happy as they can be. I'll be here at home with my cat, Yippee. We'll keep celebrating and enjoying our time together, but Zooming with the family so that we all can stay safe. It's important. So I hope you all have as happy a holiday as possible in this crazy COVID time, and we'll come together again in 2021 and hope for better horizons.
Yeah. Be safe, everybody. Be safe.
One more thing. We have a meeting next Wednesday also, right?
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, you're right. We do have a training. The Title IX training is next Wednesday. Yeah, we just don't have another board meeting until January. Yeah.
Okay. And that's at 6 o'clock, right? I think it was earlier.
Let me double check. Yes, it's at 6 o'clock next Wednesday. Okay. We'll send you out the Zoom information for login.
And technically, it's not a meeting of the board because we will not do board business, but it is a training for the board.
Yeah, so we won't be doing any board business at that meeting, at that time, at that training. So it's not a meeting of the board. So,
Mary, did you have something?
No, not at all.
I thought I saw your hand go up.
I thought we were at good night. I was about to worry.
Get your car keys.
Right.
That was his car keys. There you go.
Right. Any other comments or questions? No? We will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Stephanie, can you do the roll?
Yes. Inspector Cantos?
Aye.
Inspector Pritz?
Aye.
Inspector Doris?
Aye.
Inspector Zeke?
Aye.
Inspector Ulmer?
Aye.
Inspector Stanfield?
Aye.
Inspector Roberts?
Aye. Motion carried. Have a happy holiday, a wonderful holiday, a safe new year, and we'll see you guys in January.
See you later, alligator.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.